The heading is weak and strong acids, weak and strong alkalis. What we see on the screen is the pH scale. I want to review what we know on the pH scale before we proceed. We've discussed pH as a measure of how acidic or basic a solution is, and we've divided that pH scale into three regions where it has been said that if a solution has a pH of less than 7, it is acidic. A pH equal to 7 means a solution is neutral, and a pH of greater than 7 means a solution is alkaline. We have also looked at different substances and compared their pH, where if we had two substances which are acidic, depending on the pH, we would be able to state which one is more or less acidic. The rule being that the lower the pH, the more acidic a substance is. And this is where we were comparing two acids. We've also said the higher the pH, the more alkaline a substance is. And of course, this is where we were comparing two alkalis or basic solutions. We are going to take the terms weak and strong and apply it to what we meant when we said more or less acidic and more or less alkaline. That means I should be able to look at a pH scale and, knowing the pH of a solution, be able to classify that solution as either a weak or strong acid or a weak or strong alkali. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my pH scale and I'm looking at the values less than 7. I'm going to divide this region of my pH scale into two halves, and I'm going to split it directly down the middle, which is here. And I'm going to compare these two regions. So we want to apply the terms weak and strong acid to our two regions here. And if it is said that the lower the pH, the more acidic a solution is, which region do you think corresponds to a strong acid? If you said 0 to 3, you would be correct. So we are basically just splitting up our pH scale to differentiate a weak versus a strong acid. We've already established that a neutral solution has a pH of 7. So we're going to look at solutions with a pH of greater than 7. And I'm splitting apart my region, which is a pH greater than 7, into two halves. And I'm just going to take out these values here. And in looking at a pH of greater than 7, I'm going to break it apart into two. And between these two regions, which do you think would apply to a weak alkali versus a strong alkali? we have stated that the higher the pH, the more alkaline a solution is. So that means for the higher pH values, this would correspond to a strong alkali, right? The pH is still greater than 7. And for a weak alkali, I'm going to use a pH of, let's say, between 8 to 11. I do not expect you to remember the exact ranges which correspond to a strong or weak acid or even a weak or strong alkali. What I would expect you to be able to do is, and I'm going to go through a few questions to let you know how you're meant to read off the pH scale in terms of the strength of an acid or an alkali. And we're going to start with a simple question. For example, if you are told a solution has a pH of 3 versus another solution which has a pH of 5, and you are asked to determine which solution is the strong acid versus which solution is the weak acid, I would expect you to remember that the lower the pH, the stronger the acid. Considering this information, this would mean that out of our two solutions, the solution with a pH of 3 would be the one which we would consider to be the strong acid, and the solution of the slightly higher pH, which is 5, would be our weak acid. So both are acids because they have a pH of less than 7, but we can now differentiate one as strong versus weak. We're going to try one with two solutions of a pH greater than 7. Can you determine which is the strong alkali versus the weak alkali? We apply the rule, the higher the pH, the more alkaline the solution. So this means the solution with the lower pH would be the weak alkali, and the solution of the higher pH would be the stronger alkali. We'll end up this short video by taking down the note on the screen. I'll read it out before I end the video. It says, all solutions must have a pH value where a solution with a pH of less than 7 is acidic, and the lower the pH value of the solution, the stronger of an acid it is. A solution of a pH of greater than 7 is alkaline, where the higher the pH value of the alkali, the stronger of an alkali that solution is.